Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nordic Energy Day of 2019. It's a true honor for all of us in Montel to have gathered so many people here today. And this is the 16th time we are organizing the Montel Nordic Energy Day. So a warm welcome to you all. We hope that this day will be very interesting for you and also that you can interact in the best possible way and have a good outcome of this conference. I'm Morten Hegna, and I'm here today with my co-moderator, Olav Vilnes, and we have a quite extensive program for you today.
Hello listeners and welcome to the Montel Weekly podcast. You've just heard the introductory session at the Nordic Energy Day. My name is Richard Sverrisson and I'm joined today by Ingvild Sørhus, Senior Carbon Analyst, EU Carbon Analyst at Refinitiv, and Reier Lilleholt, Head of Analysis at Wattsight. A warm welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're here to discuss current dynamics in both carbon markets and also in the Nordic power markets. Now I know we're very lucky to have you two experts here who can guide us through these. Ingvild, if we turn to EU carbon, we've seen prices touch Euro 30 in the European trading scheme, and they've fallen back to sort of 26, 27, although they're around 25 now. We've discussed this in the last week's pod, but could you briefly go into the dynamics? What's happening here? Because normally prices go up in August, don't they?
Yeah, it's because of how the emission trading system is set up, or the auction calendar for the EU ETS is set up. It's in August, the auctions are, or supply coming via auctions are halved due to kind of people being away on holiday and lower production in Europe. So to cater for that, the auction supply is halved in August. But what we have seen in the previous year is that kind of prices have been, or that has supported prices in August. This year,
thin liquidity, you mean?
Thin liquidity, yeah. Or at least low supply coming to auctions. So not necessarily thin liquidity, but the lower supply coming to the market. So, and that's probably what helped pushing up the price in July, because then we saw kind of a bit of a rally in prices again on the expectations that it was going to be kind of a shortage in the market when August was starting with the halved auctions. And in addition, the heat wave in Europe also helped kind of carbon spiking to new high levels. Do
you think we're likely to see prices return to 30 again in the coming weeks or months, or are we more likely to fall back, below 25? What is your view here?
Good question. It's tricky to pinpoint if it's going to 30 exact or above 30, or if it's falling back again. We see quite a lot of technical trading now, that it's not necessarily fundamentally driven the movement we have seen kind of over the last few weeks. It's more kind of technically driven, also supported by these underlying factors that, like, you have half auction supply coming in August. Gas market is quite bearish at the moment. We have fuel switching going on full speed
we'll
in
return
Europe.
to that,
yeah. And I think kind of, so from that side, you're not getting any kind of support to carbon, but I wouldn't say I would rule out that prices would go to 30 again, but probably it will kind of ease a bit now when auction supply is coming back to normal in September.
Okay. So it looks increasingly unlikely. So what do you think, Reier? Obviously, the price of carbon is an important component in Nordic prices. You were at the Nordic Energy Day here, Montel's Nordic Energy Day, and you gave a bit of a sort of bearish outlook for carbon. Can you explain some of your reasons behind that?
Yeah, I could just start with it's correct that it's very important for the Nordic market, because it's actually the half of the price of the Nordic power prices is connected to CO2.
Yeah.
So I will start with, of course, it's from start off, it's a bearish market because it's oversupply. It's huge in this market. But of course, you have this market stability reserve that will help that now for the next couple of years. But on top of that, you have seen a huge change now the past 1 or 2 years, because of, maybe it could be due to the very high CO2 prices, because you see the GDP growth rate is a lot lower now than expected 1 year ago. You see the industry struggling more, and they will shut down industry, and that will have a double effect, because you produce CO2 when you produce your products, and also you use electricity to burn when you are in the industry. So it's a huge component. So the industry is one side, and you also have a lot more scary macroeconomics at the moment. You have the trade war, you have a lot of the Brexit, and the performance in UK and Germany is a lot poorer than you have seen 1 year ago. And the other side, on the power side, you see also the the residential consumption is also going down. You see 2 to 3% lower now than last year. So that will help. And you also have the substitution price. The gas prices is so low that you could switch to gas with a lower CO2 price, and that could also trigger lower prices. So more or less, we have a more balancing price closer to 20 euros, where the industry will survive, and also the producers are happy with the level of the CO2 prices.
Okay.
So we are a bit lower, but it could take some time, because you need some time to let the physical or the fundamental figures come out in the market.
So, Reier, you mentioned the recessionary fears here, sort of the headwinds, maybe the clouds over, not just European but global trade and the global economy. Ingvild, what could this do to carbon prices? I mean, Reier is saying 20. Could it go below this, and even much below this? We've seen this before as well with the global recession.
Of course, if you have a recession, you saw kind of how that was lowering production in or activity in Europe. And of course, if you have lower activity, that will mean lower emissions in Europe, hence less demand, which will have a bearish impact on prices. I mean, will prices crash from the levels where they are today to kind of the low as we have previously seen? I don't think so, because we have this market stability reserve in place. Every year you will have the publication of the official oversupply number, which will make the basis for how much should go into the market stability reserve. And of course, if you have lower demand, that will mean you have a higher oversupply, and then the market stability will respond to that, taking in more from auctions the next year. So I think kind of that the risk of a crashing carbon price is much lower than we had in the previous years when we didn't have the market stability reserve in place. I mean, it will be tighter. It will be tighter going on. I mean, you are going for a 40% target, possibly also a tightened 2030 emission reduction target for Europe. And also, if you want to go to a carbon zero in 2050, then emissions needs to go down, and the cost of carbon needs to go up.
I was interested, Reier, in you were saying about household consumption falling to 3%. Could you talk a little bit about that, and what does that mean? Is this a growing trend? I mean, given the growth of EVs, certainly the electric vehicles in Norway, that seems to be a little bit counterintuitive or counter to what we're hearing.
I think we could separate the Nordics and the European areas a little bit, because in the Nordics we have a lot of things are taking a growth in the consumption still. You have the battery fabric, you have the data centers, and you have also the electrification of the transport sector. And you also have the oil industry. Already next month we will start a new cable to Johan Sverdrup with 115 megawatts. So it's
one of the big oil fields in Norway, one of the biggest.
It's a new ones. So that will be in the Nordics. You will see a tendency that some of the consumption will increase still, but look to Sweden. The industries in Sweden has really been knocked hard by this as well. So the price or the consumption in Sweden, the industry in Sweden, is going down as well. And 1 year ago, it was a lot more optimistic also in Sweden. So when we're going to Europe, you see 1 year ago it's all very optimistic. It was all hours was pointing upwards, but suddenly it turned downwards. And
for household consumption, you mean?
Yes, and also the industry.
Okay.
So I think we have some figures. Maybe the industry is reduced with 50 terawatt hours in a year.
Okay, across Europe.
Across Europe.
That's huge, of course.
It's very huge.
Yeah. And what does that do for carbon demand? I mean, if people, both industry and households, or households are choosing solar panels, batteries, industries either closing down or relocating, what's this doing for the carbon balance?
Of course, if industry is closing down, it's kind of yes, you are having less demand in the market, but we also have to remember that industry is getting a lot of their allowances for free. So a lot of these allowances will never hit the market. That should then go to industry. Of course, you could reduce activity and still get roughly the same amount of EUAs for free. So, I mean, in our modeling, of course, we do have a decrease in industry output this year as well. And we do also scenarios for what will it happen if we have simulated a recession again. That will have a bearish impact on prices, of course.
So, I mean, if we return to the power markets, Tora, it's quite interesting, and you brought it up in your presentation earlier, to look at the difference between the Nordic market and the German market. Now, the spread between some of the forward contracts is up around 13 euros. And if I understand you correctly, you're making a clear case for the fact that the Nordic market is overpriced. Could you give some of your reasons here?
Yeah, some of the reason is that since 2015, we have seen a difference between the market expectation and our fundamental calculations. So it started there and has been there since. And one of the main reasons is the start building of wind.
Okay.
You have a lot of wind commissioned now in the next for the past years, and they have started to sell PPA contracts, and the industry is actually those who are buying all those contracts. So you see Alcoa, Hydro, data centers. You have Facebook, Google. They are buying all these new renewables on long-term contracts. So they are actually already out in the market. So you don't see a lot of consumers in this market, but you still have a lot of huge hydro producers that will sell or hedge in this market, and that is making an imbalance in the Nordic power market at the moment. And I think the prices in the Nordic market is close to what you will need to build out wind power in the market, with a risk premium or a premium for the interest rate that you need to invest, and then they have sold all the power, so they don't have more incentive to go into the market. So actually the people or the participant who are gain from this is the big industry, because they have got a lot of cheap power. Absolutely. I believe. Okay. So our forecast is around 10 euros higher in the looking 5-10 years ahead in the market, and closer to the German market, because we connect more. Already in 3 years we will build 5,000 more megawatt cables to the neighboring countries out of Nordic.
So that's an interesting question. So despite all the wind, the additional wind capacity, you think prices should rise even further?
It's important that all this power has a way out of the system. Okay. And we believe with the new cables we have potential to export it to a higher price, because the continental prices are higher.
So they will not reduce price in the Nordic region, but will maybe lower some of the prices in the continent, which will mean a leveling of the two regions.
Yes. Yeah. So, of course, more power means lower prices, but also more interconnections means higher prices. So they are...
That's always been a difficult sell, maybe domestically, politically, but but I think it's probably good news for certain consumers.
So I think now the wind power is in the money without subsidizing. So, of course, that is also some mechanism who could speed up this process. But we also have the other side, that there's a lot of resistance against building wind in Norway, Sweden now. So you will see more resistance, I think, for the next 5 years in building onshore wind.
And that because of the political pressure from groups and nature groups, that will force a slowdown, you think?
But still we have an opinion in the Norwegian people that is 50-50, building wind, not building wind. But we hear a lot more from the people who are against it, of course.
Yeah, they scream louder.
Yes.
Yeah. But one of these cables is going to the UK. Now, Ingvild, there's quite a lot going on here in terms of Brexit. It seems to be we're sort of, we're heading full speed for no deal. What are the implications for the carbon market, in particular the UK installations and EUAs from UK installations?
For UK installations, I mean, the uncertainty if there will be a hard deal or if it's going to be a deal or when is UK actually out. I mean, you said it was seems to be increasingly, the probability of that they're leaving on the 31st of October seems increasingly more likely. But for UK installations, they don't know yet. So for 2019, they don't know if they have to comply with their 2019 emissions. And that is, I mean, of course, when you had a delay in end of March and you had kind of the new deadline on 31st of October, that made life a bit tricky for UK installations. So assuming that you have to plan for the whole year as if you were, I mean, we think that there are a lot of installation that has planned as if they need to comply with the ETS for 2019 as well. Probably, I mean, not to a full extent, but at least maybe it's a bit kind of been too risky to wait until you have clarity. Because suddenly if you have a deal in October, then you have only a few months to cover your needs for 2019 emissions. But I think also for the rest of Europe, it has been, I mean, you have a UK installation on one side that has kind of maybe this additional demand for EUAs now in 2019, but no supply is coming to the market because the auctions are on hold. You have free allocation to industries on hold. Then you have this supply and demand mismatch from the UK, which has also kind of been a supportive factor. And we saw kind of that supportive factor during April when prices went up. Both on optimism that you thought you had a deal, but also this supply and demand mismatch.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe clarity is in a little bit of short supply as well, because, and also the carbon market could be quite a long way down the list of priorities if you're having port blockages, short food shortages, etc., etc. So, we could be a long wait before there's more certainty for carbon market players.
Yeah, and of course there is a risk that you will have a sell-off if there will be a no deal. And of course, when you're approaching the deadline without knowing, this risk will also kind of be priced in. You could have, or most likely will have, a bearish impact if there is a no deal in October. Probably yes, but the sell-off from UK accounts, because the UK players will lose access to their accounts when they're out of the EU, and kind of how much is this on the day that need to be on the last day when they are approaching the closure of the accounts.
Reier, another key market for the Nordics is Germany. What happens there? Both of you've talked about fuel switching, and we've seen certainly a lot of that across Europe, but in Germany in particular, where lignite producers are pretty much out of the production mix. Is this something you expect to continue over the autumn and the winter, or will these come back in, do you think?
You have to look at the different prices on gas and coal, because the gas prices in the market are picking up again. So in Q1, already the gas prices are higher than the coal prices. So definitely we will switch something back again, and you will see higher demand for coal. But of course, if you're looking further ahead, 2 or 3, 4 years, you'll see a huge planned phase out of coal power plants in Germany. But you also have built a lot of new ones just recently. So we have a lot of cheap coal production units that still will be running, I think, if the gas prices are higher. But they will not compete too much with gas, so that's why they are out of the market this summer and maybe also the autumn. But going into the autumn, you will see higher demand for gas because of the consumption is going up due to temperatures, and then you also will see higher prices for gas, and they will come closer to coal, and I think that will line out the two different production units, I think.
So this market-driven switch to gas, or sort of brief golden age of gas is short-lived in your view?
Yeah, unless you believe in a very bearish gas market, because the gas market seems to be under pressure.
Okay, so it's the policy.
The demand in Asia has been lower, so all the LNG and all the gas power has pointing to Europe, and that's why we are in the situation we have now with low demand. Also in Europe, you have a lot of gas flowing into Europe, but that will probably not be the same case next summer. But it's possible.
One thing on the coal to gas switch is also a high carbon price nowadays. So, of course, gas is only emitting half of what the average coal plant is doing, lignite even more. So, of course, I mean, a high carbon price, even though kind of gas is recovering somewhat, coal needs to stay quite low in order for the coal or the CO2 switch not to take place.
Mm-hmm. And there doesn't seem to be much of a prospect of coal prices rebounding, or I suppose it's very much dependent on what's happening in China.
In our view, it's a bit short-term downward trend now, but in the longer run, we see upside again for coal.
Okay.
So more close to 80 maybe, but it's also depending on the macroeconomics. So it could very easily change because the Asia is running cheaper. They have to set the limit where they are happy with the industry and also the all China or the mining of coal in China, because it's a lot of employees that is affected in Asia.
Well, that's about all from us this week. Thank you very much to Ingvild and to Reier. Listeners, please make sure you join us again next week. Remember to keep up to date with all our stories on Montel News and follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. And remember to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify if you haven't already.